Don't cry for me, Argentina. Don't worry, everyone. I'm not going to quit my day job just yet. I want to talk about what happened today with Argentina. I want to talk about what's not being talked about in regards to Argentina, which is even a bigger problem than the default that just happened. And at the end of this, I'm going to leave a game show that I put together in 2011, which really explains a lot of the problem that Argentina faces by the people that are running the show and the government that continues to spend more than they should, which is a problem around the world, but overspending is a huge problem that they're dealing with. So Argentina's first bond, issued in 1824, was supposed to have a lifespan of 46 years. Less than 4 years later, the government defaulted. Resolving the ensuing standoff with creditors took 29 years. Since then, 7 more defaults have followed. The most recent one today, when Argentina failed to make a payment on bonds issued as partial compensation to victims of the previous default in 2001. Argentina says that by paying the holdouts, which represented 7% of the money owed, if they would have paid them the $1.3 billion, it could have exposed them to claims for up to $100 billion for exchange creditors who are entitled to equal treatment under what is called a rights upon future offers, or a RUFO clause, which happens to expire at the end of the year, so they may just wait that out and then take care of it all then. What I really think is going to happen with this situation, that private banks are just going to buy out that 7%, and then they'll be able to make the payment, which they had ready. They had a $539 million payment ready to go to the other 93% of the bondholders, which they'd made agreements with in 2005 and 10 for like 30-40 cents on the dollar. They made agreements with them, but these other guys who bought it at 10 cents on the dollar back in 01, these couple hedge funds, or Argentina's calling vulture funds, they were, wanting to hold out. They wanted full payment. And so they took it to a U.S. court, and they said yes, that they're going to have to give them full payment. So kind of a messed up deal for Argentina, but you play around with taking high-risk bets like that, and it didn't work to Argentina's favor, so this is the ending result. But what I really want to point out, well, just a minute, before I get to there, I'd like to say that Argentina's stock market lost 8% on the day, while the U.S. lost 2%, the Dow falling 317 points, which wipes out most of 2014 gains, and then the peso lost 4% against the dollar, and fears of inflation, which is already around 25% in Argentina, are pretty strong for the rest of the year. So I wanted to point out something else here, which I think is really important. A week ago, there was an article that came out entitled "Argentina's Central Bank on Path to Insolvency in Just 2 Months." So this is a way bigger problem here than with the default, which I think is going to be worked out in any number of ways. The BRICS could even come up and, get their back on some of these bonds and help them out, because the BRICS has their new development bank that they just set up, $100 billion bank. So anyhow, I wanted to read this here real quick. Ever-increasing government expenditure is becoming simply unmanageable for the Argentinian government. One does well to remember that in just the last 10 years, public spending went from 30% of economic activity to approximately 46%. This significant increase must be funded somehow. And after resorting to various tactics, the central government is running out of options. First, an extremely high tax burden leaves no room for raising taxes. And second, simple money supply expansion to fund public expenses is a well-known alternative, but they've already used that to the max, so it'll be interesting to find out what happens here. They recently got a new central bank president, who I just heard there were rumors that he was going to resign, so I don't know, it's just a total mess over there, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But it's really incredible that one of the richest countries in the world 100 years ago has so many problems now after so much mismanagement. So I'll talk to you all soon, and I'll leave you with this clip from 2011, which kind of explains a big problem they've had in the last 4 years.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first Name That Keynesian show. I'm your host, Moneybag73, and this is the show where we give you some quotes and tidbits of information about our featured Keynesian and the mystery location where they reside. Now, before we get going, for those of you who don't know what Keynesianism is, Keynesianism is widely accepted by a lot of individuals as the main reason why we have so many economic problems around the world currently. So, in order to direct your train of thought, I thought we'd start off with a quote from no other than John Maynard Keynes himself. And I quote, "By a continuing process of inflation, government can confiscate secretly and unobserved an important part of the wealth of their citizens." So with that in mind, let's go ahead and try and figure out who this featured Keynesian really is. The mystery Keynesian is 51 years old and has a Yale University education. In a recent article by Bloomberg, they used their Yale University education in coming up with the following answers. Inflation is a result of companies being unable to meet consumer demand, they said, and should be resolved by boosting loans for production. Okay. They also said they plan on increasing the money supply by 28%. Sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face on that. And not only that, but they said that that won't have any effect on inflation. Okay, let's just inflate the money supply, but that's not going to affect inflation according to our featured Keynesian. In response to rising prices, the price problem doesn't have monetary roots, our featured Keynesian said. The conditions that could cause inflation to accelerate don't exist here in this mystery location. In one interview, I heard how the mystery Keynesian said how they held their currency low against the US dollar. They didn't allow it to appreciate like other countries. And this benefited their exports. Wow, nothing like some benefited exports at the expense of the purchasing power of your citizens' currency, huh? Okay, so this brings us to part 2 of the Name That Keynesian. Now this is about the mystery location. In the early 1900s, our mystery location was in the top 10 richest nations in the world, actually ranking number 7. And between 1870 and the year 2004, our mystery location had no less than 6 defaults on their debt. And they hold the record for the largest default in the history of the world. Our mystery location's mint has recently been having problems keeping up with the amount of paper money needed for economic growth, of course. So they've started to outsource to neighboring countries to start printing their money for them. The economic lessons to be learned from our mystery location are that wealth and resources can be destroyed by big government and financial mismanagement. So go ahead and leave your answers in the comments section below before I give you the actual answer. And remember, if you cheat and wait till I give you the answer and then put your comment like you knew the answer, you're only cheating yourself, because knowledge of Keynesian economics is going to be very important in the coming years. So I'll wait, give you a second there. Okay, so our featured Keynesian is no other than Mercedes Marcó del Pont, the president of the central bank of the mystery location. Now, maybe you didn't know Miss Mercedes, but you may have known the country that we were talking about. The mystery location is Argentina. Argentina is the mystery location today on the Name That Keynesian show. And a little bit of information about Argentina. The name Argentina comes from the word argentum, which is the Latin for silver. And did you know that silver is also the word for money in more than 100 countries? Like in my wife's country of Peru, the word plata is the word for silver as well as the word for money. Now, how ironic that a country whose name actually means money has had so many problems dealing with it over the years.